There are 4 highways that lead out of Tucson. 2 interstates. 10, which goes north to Phoenix and east to the wilds of Tombstone and Cochise, and 19, which runs south through San Xavier to Mexico in the border city of Nogales. Highway 77 runs northeast to the Superstition Mountains in the array of mining towns near Miami Globe, and Highway 86 leads west along the border through the largest area of reservation land in southern Arizona. No matter which direction you ride out on, you're in for miles and miles of blistering Sonoran desert. But far from the western towns that dot the landscape of southern Arizona in northern Mexico, there is only one highway out of Tucson that truly leads away from civilization and into the wilds of Sonora. Organ Pipe Cactus National Monument is located on the southern edge of Arizona, south of Gila Bend and bordering on the western edge of the Tohono O'odham Indigenous Reservation. The southern edge of the park is the international border, and you can see into Mexico from most vantage points in the park. Organ Pipe Cactus, the park's namesake, are large, multi-branching cousins of the iconic saguaro cactus that tower over the Sonoran Desert. Found mostly in Mexico, the mountainous slopes of volcanic rock in far southern Arizona are the only place that they occur naturally in large numbers in the United States. Both organ pipe and saguaros are columnar cacti and are among the slowest growing plants in the entire world. A great number of the towering saguaros and organ pipes you see here are over 100 years old, with some of them potentially being over 150. Furthermore, the growth of saguaros and organ pipes are extremely dependent on rainfall. Saguaros in the Rincon Mountains in Tucson receive more annual rainfall than those in organ pipe and in turn can grow almost twice as fast, meaning that some of the tallest saguaros here in organ pipe have been growing nearly 50 years longer to reach the same height as their counterparts to the east. Known by several names by the different groups living here before the international border that exists today, the organ pipes got their European namesake from the Spanish explorers who thought that the branching arms of the cactus looked like the pipes of a church organ. The national monument here, established in 1937, was one of the earliest attempts to preserve a desert environment like this in the US. In 1976, the park became part of the Biosphere Program, an international effort by the United Nations Education, Scientific, and Cultural Organization encouraging the international study and preservation of different landscapes across the Earth. Today, the park remains as one of the most pristinely preserved sections of Sonoran Desert wilderness and works with scientists across the globe, along with the National Park Service and the University of Arizona, which runs the indoor Biosphere 2 Reserve north of Tucson. The human and political struggles of this land are not the focus of this video, but you'd have to have your head in the sand not to see them. Most of State Highway 86 crosses the Tohono O'odham Indigenous Reservation, where hand-painted signs beg for children to be returned and for justice for their missing and murdered. West of Tucson is a federal highway checkpoint, the first of 2 on the drive, where Border Patrol agents glare wordlessly at the camping gear and wave us through. Two hours west of Tucson, at the conjunction of consecutive highways 86 and 85, is the tiny town of Y. The travel stop at the junction, the last stop before the park and before the border, asks simply, why not? The wide desert expanse here does feel like the edge of something, if only the edge of an artificial line on the map. But that is only from the perspective of an American. If it weren't for the boogie boards for sale at the travel stop, you'd never know that this vast Oregon landscape is less than 70 miles from the ocean. The visitor center in Organ Pipe is one of the better ones I've seen and presents the landscape here by seasons and by how both the wildlife and indigenous people here adapt to it. In an environment with extreme variations in temperature and rainfall throughout the year, adapting to the annual cycle of the Sonoran Desert is a necessity for survival here. Sonora doesn't have much of a fall season, and the winter is largely spent quiet and dormant. In a place with very little ability to hold on to temperature, the winter days are hot and the nights are frigid, and the harsh temperature swings with little moisture make it hard for anything to grow or thrive. The early spring months aren't much of an improvement, as the cold nights simply give way to drier, hotter days and the occasional dust storm. Towards the end of spring, there is typically a small but vital wave of precipitation. Although the spring usually brings very little rain, it is enough to send the cactus and other flowering desert plants into bloom. The end of May is flowering season for the thousands of saguaro cactus found in Organ Pipe. Many of the ones you'll see in a moment still have their flowering buds, and although most of the bright white flowers are gone, you can still spot a few. Summer in Sonora is split almost directly down the middle into two completely distinct seasons. The end of May through early July, or the first summer, is the hottest and driest of almost any season in any place in North America. The sparse rains from the end of spring dry up quickly, and in June and early July, most of the creatures that stir here do so at night or in the early morning. Even still, there are resources to be found for the wildlife that spent the winter lying dormant. Many of the plants and animals in the Sonoran Desert are among the most specially adapted in the world, and the first summer is when those adaptations shine, as the animals here adjust their schedules to the searing heat of the sun and source water from any place they can. It's a long and hot wait for the turn of the season in July, but when it comes fast. It's a common misconception that it doesn't rain in the desert. It actually rains quite a bit in Sonora. The difference is that it all happens at once. From mid-July through early September, the second summer in Sonora brings monsoon season, where daily storms pelt the desert with furious rainfall and tremendous webs of lightning. The abundance of rain overflows from the washes that have laid dry all year, and flash flooding is common across the desert. For the people who have lived here for millennia, the start of the summer monsoons historically marks the beginning of the new year in O'odham culture, as the storms bring a sudden and often violent abundance of life back to the desert that has gone nearly a year without consistent rain. Once the monsoon season subsides in September, the water dries up and the plants and animals fight to hoard what they can, and the long wait for the new year begins again.
This setup behind me here is what's called a sanctuary tree. Oftentimes, saguaro cactus, or in this case an organ pipe cactus, will sprout underneath the base of a tree, in this case a palo verde tree, to offer some protection before the saguaro or the organ pipe cactus matures. The tree will offer shade and protection against other animals that might trample it before it gets too tall. In a couple decades from now, this organ pipe will have grown big enough to outcompete the palo verde tree and the tree will die. Oftentimes, in a place like this, you'll see a younger saguaro cactus or an organ pipe cactus underneath the base of a taller tree. Or, sometimes, when you see a fully matured cactus, you'll see a dead tree next to it, and you'll know that the sanctuary tree cycle has completed itself.
And these are called teddy bear cacti. I think they're really cool.
In the late spring and early summer, the Sonoran Desert comes to life. But until the monsoons arrive, it's too hot for most animals without scales to be out during the day. It could be said that May and June is the most nocturnal time of year here, so it's only fitting that our animal feature would occur after dark. This tiny, comically adorable little guy is a kangaroo rat. Their back legs give them a kangaroo-like appearance, but despite the latter part of their name, they aren't rats. Rather, they belong to Heteromyidae, a family of burrowing rodents found mostly in North America. Their legs give them the ability to hop several feet in the air, and their long weighted tails give them balance and direction while both hopping and scurrying through the brush. While some animals here are active both during the day and night depending on the time of year, kangaroo rats are nocturnal year-round. As an incredibly adorable creature to us and an incredibly easy-looking snack for owls and coyotes, the cover of night gives them additional protection from predators as well as the searing heat. Many desert animals, like Gila monsters, get most of their water through their diet, but will still drink water if they can find it. Kangaroo rats are some of the only animals here that will never drink water in their entire lifetime and get all of their fluid intake through their diet. They spend their nights foraging for seeds, stuffing them into pouches in their mouths like a gopher, and stockpiling them in their burrows. Kangaroo rats possess some of the highest functioning kidneys in the entire world, and their outback equivalents, the Australian hopping mouse, have potentially the most effective kidneys of any mammal on Earth. Just a few tiny seeds are enough to keep them hydrated, and their burrows and nighttime foraging minimizes heat exposure and moisture loss. There were quite a few of these guys scurrying around while I was filming around midnight, and a few of them let me get pretty close to them. I've lived in Arizona for a bit now, and this was my first time seeing them, and I have to say it was a pretty positive experience. These things are adorable. Sonora is a land of small details, best appreciated up close among a vast expanse of arid winds and punishing heat. But the view from up top is nonetheless stunning. The desert here is a place of merciless beauty. The people who live here, as well as those who come here, have far and away had the odds stacked against them. In a month or so from now, when the monsoons come, the desert here will flourish for a time. After that, it's back to the long wait, for the next cycle, the next season, and the next chapter of what history will hold for this land. In the meantime, when the wind tears through and the towering saguaros begin to sway, if you put your ear up to the organs, you might just hear the music.